It's episode 44 of the Cross Anime. We back after 2 weeks. Hello everyone.
Hi there.
I hope you missed us. I'm Mario,
I'm Whooper.
and with me, Whooper. So today we're gonna do like all the cover up of like all these weeks that we have missed. So episode 4 to 6 of Dololo, Promised Neverland, Mob Psycho 100, and episode 4 and 5 of Kaguya-sama, and the next volume, volume 9, which cover the chapter 43 to 47 of the Flower Evils.
Yeah.
Uh, we can start with like the with Kaguya-sama. How do you think about that?
I mean, that's my favorite show of the season, so I
All
guess
right.
I'm okay with that.
Yep. So you told me like I get from your impression that you don't really like many show that been airing this season, right?
Yeah, just Kaguya, I'm pretty sweet on. Mob Psycho is okay, and then we were just talking before we started recording about Rinchi Ekoda-chan. I'm looking forward to that
That
each week as well, but everything else, I'm just like, whatever. I don't care.
that show that's Eduka-chan is a class, so everyone just watch it. Watch like the first 3 episodes, the first 3 minutes of every episode.
Yeah, exactly. The first 3 minutes. Don't be fooled by its 23-minute,
Of
runtime when you open up the file. You can just
right.
watch the first three and then skip the rest if you like.
Yeah, just don't mind on the interviews of the old directors.
They're oh, you gotta make fun of the fact that they're old, or just like bring attention to that.
They're not unfashionable old
They're
directors.
I think the fact that they're older and that they're able to bring different like perspectives on the manga, um, compared to somebody who's younger and would maybe do it more traditionally, because they have more of a fear of like conformity, or a fear of failure from deviating
Yep,
too much from what they know and their limited
yep.
amount of experience. The older guys are just like, hey, I'm just gonna go nuts with this thing because I'm old and I don't I've got nothing to prove.
That's right. It's like it feel like that. This is a break for them. Like they just have like 3 minutes to anime, so they want to just try to break out, which
Yeah,
is good.
yeah, it's fun.
Uh, yeah, it been really fun. I love it. I mean I just watched the first 3 episodes of that now, but I love every single minute of that.
Indeed. And I also love Kaguya-sama, so it's perfect.
All right, so let's go back to Kaguya-sama.
Cool.
I really like the episode 4, but I wasn't too keen on the episode 5 of Kaguya-sama.
Yeah, I've pretty much felt the same way. I mean, I still enjoyed watching episode 5. It's still my favorite. I still
Mm.
like all the characters, so when they show up on my screen, I'm happy. But episode 5 for me was the first one that kind of, after we spent the last few episodes kind of venturing away from the academy where most of the early stuff was set, we started
Mhm.
going, like outside the walls of the school. We got that chapter and example, for example, in episode 4, where it's Kaguya at her house, her mansion, and she's
Right.
obsessing over what to message Shirogane, or what to text him, what to call, how to call him, when to call him. Um, and in episode 5, we went back to everything taking place at the school, and it was back to the 3 chapters a week format. So like the little changes and tweaks in the formula that the show
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
been working in were kind of reversed in that episode.
Yeah. I do feel like the show do a bit more focus on the other characters, Fujiwara,
Hmm.
and I just think like she becomes some sort of like internet sensational. Like everyone just keep talking about her.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
the ED for episode 3 went viral, I guess, and
Yep.
as a result, tons of people, like more and more eyes came to the show. More people are probably watching it now, and she's become like an unofficial mascot, I
Yeah,
guess.
but the way the show like animate her is really like expressive and lively as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because she, of the three main characters, she is the most expressive. The other two
That's
kind of have
right.
to be reserved because they're, they can't overplay their hands since they're
Yep.
trying to get the other one to confess. But she, in addition to that not being a burden on her, even further to the contrary, she's like all about openness and expressiveness, and
Yep.
she just wants to talk to everybody. She wants everybody to get along, to be everyone's friend, to be involved in all their romantic discussions and talks. I
Right.
guess she expresses that in episode 4 during the banned word game,
Yeah.
where she's
Well,
like,
that
"Oh,
actually
I hate when people tell me I can't read the mood," and then in episode 5 she busts in on um,
the
the
advice.
yeah and she's got her little Sherlock Holmes cap and her pipe. That was cute.
Well, actually, like the episodes where they do the truth game, was one of my favorite
The banned word
segment.
game, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I thought the honestly, I mean, I did like it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say, of course. Everybody
Right.
likes different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that segment, but the fact that she was rapping the whole time was kind of like I was a little bit weirded out by that.
Well, she's supposed to be out of the characters, out of her own characters.
Right?
So I can see the reason why they do that, and she was fun. She was fun to look at,
Yeah.
and
I don't know what my reason for having I associate hip hop, I think, with like grittiness and kind of
right.
like urban realness, like especially like the black community trying to tell their story
Yep, yep, yep.
through a medium that most people will accept. Like it's their way of telling their truth. So to
Yep.
see a white slash Asian looking girl with pink hair rapping, it's just
Rap, yeah,
it doesn't quite fit with me. But at this point,
yeah,
rap is huge, so everybody's doing
yeah,
it.
and she rapping just to be cute as well. So I can see the reason why you be weird out by that.
Yeah, just a little. It was a
Yeah.
fun chapter and a fun episode.
How do you think about the French segment? The segment where they come to the French party.
Right. That to be honest, that was my least favorite part of episode 4. It felt kind of
Mm-hmm.
tacked on to the end for me. Although many of the
Right.
chapters in that episode were kind of leading up to it.
Right.
For example, at the cosplay stuff at the very beginning, kind of
Mm-hmm.
sprung from a conversation about how France is like the number 2 cosplay country,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the stuff with the Kage obsessing about how she's going to text or call the president.
Mm.
That was to what was she worrying about? Oh yeah, they were going to set up like a date and a time when they were going to go shopping for the things they needed for the party.
Right.
So
Right.
episode 4 was kind of interesting in that there was like a runner throughout the entire thing. It was all in service of this party that they were going to throw for the French exchange students. But
Right.
then at the end, the actual party just felt kind of truncated to me, like they squeezed it in.
Yep. The reason I asked that was I was reading your the blog about
Yeah.
the episode 4, and I didn't see you actually mention about the event of the actual party.
Right. Yeah, that was a conscious choice.
Mm.
Not because I didn't have anything to say about it. Like if I had said something about it, I would have just briefly explained everything and then lightly criticized it for that
Yep.
feeling. But I mean the real reason that I didn't include it was because I was dead tired while I was typing that up.
Right.
It was right before I went to bed one night, I think,
Yep.
and I was just like, I have to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I just need to publish this. So I went click because I got 3
All right.
paragraphs. So I was like, I'm done.
All right. So one bit that I really like about that segment was the way that the main character Shirogane was scared that Kaguya finding out that he can speak any French, and like he have on the all the talk about how she will like how cute. She always say like how cute,
Hmm.
and that was in French.
Right.
That was really a nice touch for me. I
Yeah,
really like it.
that was fun. And one interesting thing about the way that chapter plays out is that it's he always imagines her to be kind of patronizing in his head when she
Right.
figures out some weakness of his or some some deficiency of his that
Yep.
she'll be able to exploit. But the reality is that she's actually very protective of him.
Mm. That's
Um,
right.
and then in that short little segment after the party's over and they're cleaning up,
Hmm.
we get that little bit where she's like, that's what I love about you," but she says the word love in some other language that he doesn't understand, so he doesn't get the
Right.
meaning.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
that's part of what's so nice about the banter that they have going on is that it's not mean spirited. Like he thinks that she's some devious mastermind who's going to prey
Hmm.
on his weaknesses, and to a certain extent she is,
That's
but
right.
she has an underlying affection for him and he for her that makes the show, it makes it feel alive. It makes it feel fun. It never gets like too bogged down in itself.
All right. So let's go to episode five. I would say that this is my least favorite episodes so far.
Yeah, same.
But we get back to like the plot thread that we have during like I think the second episodes
Yeah, the
where
romantic advice.
yeah, the romantic advice. So we were expecting that for a while now, and it's back. How you feel about that?
Well, I thought, okay, at the end of episode 2 it says that the next advice seeker is that girl with the brown hair, her friend,
Right, right,
Kashiwagi's
right.
friend, not Kashiwagi herself. So I was like, I was kind of disappointed that it was Kashiwagi who was coming to Kaguya for advice.
Hmm.
And then at the end of this episode, this segment, she's still like lurking, and clearly distraught about something. I think we can assume that she actually likes the guy who her friend is going out with.
Hmm. Right, right.
That's
Yep.
why she's like, kind of hiding behind a. Well, we don't see what she's hiding behind, but
Yeah.
she's
Well.
hiding, and she's got those little sweat beads coming out, like she's concerned.
Yep.
So the whole thing with Kashiwagi, it's fun, and Fujiwara gets to put on her love guru hat,
Yep.
um, and then the whole thing about like society being man's natural enemy, that was a little weird,
Right.
but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Well, one of my least favorite segment in episode five is the second one, where it's just Shirogane want to be good at volleyball,
Right. Okay,
and
so
I just
why was that one of your least favorites? Because I actually had the same feeling, but my brother, who's watching this show with me, really liked that one. So what about it didn't you prefer?
well, I think one part of that is the lack of involvement of Kaguya.
Uh,
I just feel like this is a segment where they lost the focus. So it usually about like Kaguya and Shirogane having like the migraine. This one is more about like developing Shirogane, and I found that the problem, the issue that he have, is a bit on the stupid side.
okay,
That
well,
just made out.
it's certainly, I mean, it's certainly a stupid problem. He's terribly uncoordinated, so much so that he's hitting his own head or face
Right.
when he tries to hit a volleyball. So that to begin with is totally unrealistic. But it's a comedy manga, so that could
Hmm.
be forgiven, perhaps. Um,
It's
but
more like it's more like a gag segment for me. So it's like one off. It doesn't contribute much to the main plot. If there is a main plot at all,
right,
it just feel like very different for me. The
yeah,
feeling.
I guess I agree, because episode 4 really had a lot of focus on one particular event, the
Hmm.
French, the
Hmm.
French transfer student party. And then in episode 5, right before the volleyball segment, we get something that's like kind of a continuation of episode 2, kind of a runner,
Hmm. Yep.
with
Yep. Yep.
the advice seekers, a way to introduce other students, other cast members. So yeah, it is kind of one off. But haven't we had chapters before where Shirogane is the focus, and Kaguya is mostly uninvolved? Have we had that before?
Which Yeah, we might, but do you remember exactly which one was that?
No, I'm asking you because I don't, because it's been so long.
Uh, um, no, I don't really. Like we
Okay.
had like the one off of Kaguya-sama, who when in that episode she walked to school.
Oh
So that
yes,
that
yes,
that
yep.
was her focus episodes, and I actually like that episodes
Yeah,
because it's all come to like her meeting Shirogane at the end. So like it's still all come together. This one though is more about him and Fujiwara. So the only thing that I like about this segment was like when Fujiwara just like I teach him that like I raise him that what the word is phrase that was really funny.
I raised him. I think.
I raise him, yeah.
Yeah, I raised that boy.
Yeah, that's right. It was a good pun. But apart from
Scrolling.
that though,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. It did feel kind of out of place, perhaps, or just yeah. I guess out of place is the term. I'm
Mhm.
looking through my the blog posts that I've written for the series in the
Right.
past, and I'm looking mostly at the screen caps to see if I can be reminded of a segment where it was just Shirogane. But I don't think I see one. Kaguya's been
Yeah,
involved in all of them, I think. It makes sense.
right.
She's the title. Her name's in the title.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we get the mind game with the umbrellas at the end. That was like kind of classic Kaguya.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So nothing surprising me on the last 6 months.
No, it was fun though. It was nice.
It was nice. It was nice. So yeah, I'm still looking for the next episode. I still think that Kaguya-sama have been really good so far, and it's I think it's evident that there is a lot of love from the staff
Yeah.
for the show.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that. I think manga readers are probably more able to detect that
Right.
than I am, but
One
yeah,
thing
it
that
does it does
I
seem to have a bit of extra care put into it.
Right. One thing that I a bit worry about though is that like many people have been mentioning that it will get into the point where it's had the actual plot point, the actual meat. That's what they said.
Right.
And I don't know if I will like I will like it or not.
Well, to be honest, after this chapter, which felt a little stagnant, I think I'm ready for it to evolve a little bit, move in a different direction.
Right.
Although I
Right.
do I do share your concern that the series might not be cut out for it, or perhaps what the director has been doing so far with this material, with which he's clearly very comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
won't transfer to whatever incarnation the show takes next. But
All
I
right.
think, I mean, this dude directed Rakugo, so
Yep.
I I'm willing to follow where he leads.
All right. Except for the mishap of the very last episodes of Rakugo, which I
What are
I
you
I
talking about, the reveal of
yep.
the
Yeah.
father?
Oh, that's right. That's
I don't
right.
I honestly don't have an issue with that.
Don't have an issue with that.
No.
All right. We will have this conversation later.
Yeah, well, at the end of the year when we go over, our
Right.
decade stuff.
Right.
I actually, yeah, I
It still leave like the short taste on my mouth.
yeah, I think that's the way it is for a lot of people, but I think I have a unique take on that.
All right. Wow. Good to hear that. Good to hear about that. All right. So let's get to the next show then.
Damn, we just spent 19 minutes talking about Kaguya.
Well, we both enjoy that show, so yeah, it's just justified.
I hope so. All right,
Let's
so
get
what's next?
all right. Let's get to the one that I'm sure you you will hate it. No, hate is like the strong word. You will not like it as much.
What's that? Promise Neverland?
That's right. Promise Neverland.
Okay.
4 to 6.
Right, right.
All right. So for the just a bit of like summarize for from episode 4 to 6, we have the review of like the informant,
Yeah.
and it was right.
Yes.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah,
Did
I actually was taken by surprise
right,
when Norman confronted him about that at the end of episode 4. But I thought the confrontation itself was super weak.
right,
Like
right, right.
the scene, nothing playful or interesting was done with it on a visual level. There was no music whatsoever to kind of add punch, which they might have been able to do it in silence. That would have been fine if it had
Mhm.
been interesting to look at. But instead, like Norman just leans in and a shadow comes over his face and something strange happens with his eyes.
Right.
And that's it, you know.
I
And
actually
then
have
that's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I actually have like the same issue with the presentation. So I still I still alright with the plot, but like the way it present its drama, I have an issues about. So that one, and we have the more involvement of two more members of the children, which is Don and Gilda,
Right.
and Crone for the last 3 episodes like mysteriously just disappear until I see it reappear in the last 5 minutes of episode 6.
It's like the last minute.
Like the last minute. All right, all
Yeah.
right, all right.
And actually,
Yeah.
we do see her quite a bit in episode 4. She kind of questions Gilda.
All right. Yeah, that's
She
right. That's right.
interrogates her in the room, and that's at the point before we it's revealed to us that Ray is the traitor. That's when they're
Yep.
still trying to figure out whether it's Dawn or Gilda.
Yep.
Um, and there's a whole big thing where Norman sets up a trap, which ends up being like a
Right.
triple trap because he figures out that it's actually, Ray. It's all about the rope,
Yep.
like
Yep.
where the
Yep.
rope is hidden. But we do get a bunch of Sister Crone being like creepy and like a slightly racist caricature,
All right.
looking like a Disney character from the 30s.
Yeah. Well, that I agree with that. Actually, about like Norman plan to like outwit the opponents.
Mhm.
I actually like his plan. I actually think that it's a smart way to figure out the rat,
Yeah,
and he did that. I had the same problem with you the same problem like you about the presentation. So like it had like no dramatic whatsoever. It it's built up to be more like a cliffhanger. So you would see like the way that Gilda and Crone. So they try to do that before, so that they want us to think that Gilda was the informant, and it turned out that it to be wrong. I mean, like the whole thing they make was so obvious that I feel a bit like out of it.
yeah. Yeah,
And
well, for me, my feeling of disconnection from that whole bit, like, is it Dawn? Is it Gilda? Oh, it's actually Ray. The reason
yep,
I feel disconnected from it is just because like the show has pretty much lost me already.
right.
Um, so yeah,
Shame,
I
a
mean I
shame.
shared your feeling, I guess, for that scene in particular.
Right. And even like later on, I have an issue with like where like all 5 children like just meeting up together and they're actually like screaming.
Right.
They do
Yeah.
all this exploding. They actually like hit each other.
Yeah.
They actually like like yelling out the stuff that you don't supposed to say, especially like when you are in the enemy enemy house.
Yeah.
And all of they just forget all about like like Mama Isabella is just around the corner, or like Sister Cone. They just like they're just nearby. I just it just feels a bit dramatic for no good reason.
Yeah, I think I would have enjoyed it more if a lot of those conversations had taken place like in the forest. If only once in a
Right.
while we got a scene where the 3 of them, or perhaps the 5 of them, after Don and Gilda are brought in on the plan, we would
Yep.
see them. They use a game of tag or something as an excuse to kind of meet up
Yep.
with each other in the forest for a little bit, and in the house there would be some more like note passing, or really
Yep.
really quiet conversations between, let's say,
Right. R-
Emma and Gilda, since they're both girls, are probably sleeping in the same room.
Right.
They could talk to each other just like very quietly at night, or the boys could do the same thing.
And
Or they could like leave messages for each other in different
right.
parts of the house, which would be a great way for us to explore the house to like learn more about its secrets and its nooks and crannies. But the problem is that the house looks like such garbage. Do you remember? I think it was in episode 5, like the point of view scene where it's like first person, we're looking through someone's eyes, and they're slowly walking up the stairs and then turning the corner and then slowly walking down a hallway to get to a door.
All right. So whose point of view was that?
I can't even remember, but the
All
scene
right. Yeah.
itself, like visually, is burned into my eyes. It looked terrible. It looked like something from it was like mid 2000s anime CG.
All right. Because I do feel like this is supposed to be a psychological thrillers, but the way the anime goes right now is just like pure thrillers. So I would have loved that there is more like like if even like just a shot of like the character feeling creepy, doing like all this creepy stuff would be more unnerving for us rather than this. This is more like plot line. It's more like like workmanship. They try to work on the plot. They forget about like everything else.
Yeah, yeah, I think I get what you mean. But a lot of anime, and I think this is something we'll talk about when we get to Dororo as well. Um,
Right.
a lot of anime feels workmanlike. Even Kaguya does in some respects.
E- I
it's
agree
very
with that.
rare that you get an anime that just feels like
Get
all the
loose,
time in the
right?
world was devoted to it, and um, it's like a real piece of art. It's a lot
Right.
of anime does feel like they're adapting something from a source, and they need to hit
Uh,
this beat, and this beat, and they need to get through it and move on to the next episode because they have a production schedule that they have to follow.
uh, all right. You know why? Because anime is an inferior medium.
That's right, man. Welcome back to the Inferior Medium Podcast, episode
Right.
44.
All right, and we haven't get into the point where Don and Gilda decided to, like to do things their own way. So they
What, go into
sneak
that room and
in.
stuff?
Yeah, they sneak in Mama Isabella rooms, and they nearly got caught because that like the show had been hinting, the show had been like trying to make us feel just feel like they nearly get cuffed every time.
Right. But instead it was Phil who comes through the door.
Yeah, right.
So
But
I don't know what the deal is with Phil. I wonder if he's like a second mole or something.
have no idea. Maybe could be for a show like this.
I mean, he's like a little tiny kid, but I don't
And
know. They just keep bringing him up, and he keeps appearing. Like he has really high test scores, and he's like a, a game of
he
whenever they play tag, he's like a tag god.
all
Uh,
right. He
I,
he was the one who returned the key, right, to Mama, right?
um, I don't remember if that was him or not.
I
I know
think it
he's the
was
one who
him.
comes through the door at the very
Right,
beginning of chapter 6 to resolve the cliffhanger.
right.
It,
Yeah.
it may have been him who returned the key. They use him for a lot of stuff like that. He's probably not a second mole. He's probably just going to be like the next kid who gets shipped out, and we're supposed to be
Huh.
forming an
Well,
attachment to him. So it's we'll
it
like when he eventually dies, it'll be like devastating.
all right. So from what we learned, it's supposed to be Raidot
Yeah,
who gonna
yeah.
be shipped out.
He does have that conversation with Mama
Oh, yep.
that it's going to be like in January.
Right, and we get to like the a mystery is a mysterious person who apparently live in the outside world and leave some sort of like the Morse code message to
Right.
the children inside.
I didn't even write down that dude's name. It was like William Minerva, I think.
Wow, good job.
Well, I mean I watched it last night, and I had to watch the horrible subs rip instead of waiting for GJM subs. So like
All
the
right,
banding issues were just terrible. Every dark scene,
yeah.
uh, looked all pixelated and shitty.
All right, all right.
So that was
I
nice.
I want the horrible stuff myself. It's
Yeah.
it's alright. I don't really notice on this. I think I get used to with the bad quality version.
Well, I mean, banding is especially an issue during like dark scenes.
Hmm.
So a lot of other series are not set in like perpetual nighttime.
Right.
So it's less of an issue for something like Kaguya-sama, let's say, which is very brightly colored, mostly takes place during the day.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
For Neverland, every episode is like, "Bleh."
All right. I read the manga. I still read the manga past this point, and I would say that I don't have many of these problems that I have for like with the anime. I still like it though. I still like how the plot play out. I don't really like the conversation or the way they amp ups on the like children drama, shouting at each other where they not supposed to be.
Yeah, and to be honest, like one of the worst parts about Don's temper tantrum is that
Right.
he gets over it so easily. Like he punches both of them, and he nearly punches Emma. Oh my God, is he gonna hit her? She's a girl.
Uh,
What?
yeah.
And then so soon after that, even though he was
I
so
know.
attached to Connie,
That's
he's
right.
like,
That's right.
oh, I'm sorry. Let's all work together and be friends.
I know that I was wrong. I know why they do that. Why they hiding the information from us.
Yeah, I mean,
But
honestly, even though I don't really like Don or Gilda very much, or I mean,
I
I
don't
guess
like
I
him
guess
at
they're
all.
fine, but I would rather see this little spat, this conflict between Don and the others. I would rather see it extended,
Yep. Yep.
to
Yep.
so that it would be like more emotionally authentic because he was the one person in the house who was like very attached to Connie. Um,
Right.
and to learn that she was sold off to literal demons, um, and killed and was set to be eaten. That should be like a serious moral qualm that he has with their plan.
Yep. Yep.
That they're
Yep.
willing to sacrifice her in order to, save themselves and make sure that they escape.
Right.
Um, I mean, that's not
I
exactly how it played out, but that seems to be how he interpreted it. And if I were him, I would take like days and weeks to get over
all
that,
right.
perhaps.
I think the issue that we have right now is that they try to speed up this act so that they can finish this act in one core. I
Yeah.
so I think that's why they rush a bit in on this like more slower action part.
Yeah, I guess. So this is. Do you think there's going to be a second core? I know this is one of Shonen
Uh,
Jump's more popular properties.
well, if they're gonna finish this act though, I think they're gonna be a second core.
Yeah. So probably like summer. I know a lot of Shonen stuff now. It'll do 12 episodes and then take a season off and then do 12 more, something like
I
that.
well, I don't mind a second season of this.
Yeah. I will not be watching.
All right, that's a bold claim from just from half of these seasons.
I don't really think there's anything bold about it. I think you can make a decision about whether you want to watch a second season of something after one episode.
Right.
6, that's
Well,
plenty.
yep. Well, I agree with that. All right, let's move on to the next show. If you don't have anything else to say about this show,
I mean, everything else I have to say is pretty critical.
yep, go on.
No,
You,
I mean, I don't really feel the need to go on. I don't like the show, so
uh,
no reason for
all
me to
right.
rag on it too much.
Then like all this good criticism, we will take it by heart.
It's fine. Let's just move on.
All right,
I don't
so
want to. It's good.
let's get to Dololo. Maybe you have more to talk about this show.
Uh, I wasn't a fan of any of these episodes.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Right. All right. So because the general consensus was that Dololo is like one of the best show in this season so far.
I think that's a pretty
I
damning indictment of winter 2019.
Yeah, well, I heard that from a lot of people actually. That
Not just like
like it,
Lenlo and Kaiser.
no, like from his face from uh all right, just
What about like
no,
in general, outside
yeah,
of the blog?
well,
Do
in
people
general,
really like this?
in general, I heard a lot of people saying they like this one as well,
Mm.
and
I feel like that feeling of workmanship,
Yeah, all
or
right.
perhaps not
That
workmanship, because when you use it when you use the term that way, it sounds a little bit too nice. But it feeling like a product that
calculated,
has been, just delivered on time.
right?
I get that feeling is all over this thing for me. And then, that's a problem that I have with a lot of twin engine series, honestly. Whether they come from
Mm.
Mappa, Geno Studio, Studio
Well,
Von.
well,
Remember Karakuri Circus?
yeah. You speak my mind, man.
Yeah,
You
this.
actually, yeah. You actually like say something that I haven't. I have like consciously think about that. Yes.
Yeah,
So yes, like on the studio Mappa, Studio Von, like all the studio that you just said,
yeah. Golden
they have.
Kamuy as well. Was from
Yep.
Studio Geno, I believe. And I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
I bailed out of that show pretty early, but
Mhm.
just the way it was animated, putting aside the CGI bear, like forgetting that entirely, the way it was animated just felt like, they were they were animating the storyboards, and that was it. There wasn't anything greater
All
to
right.
the way it was assembled.
All right. Two things. First, the person the blogger that I forgot was Angel. Angel really like it.
Oh, Dododo.
No, no, no. And
Well,
the
I mean, of
second
course he
thing,
does. It's an adaptation of a Tezuka series, and it doesn't have any cute girls in it. Oh, I guess it has one, but she's dead.
all right. And the second thing is I still like as much as I don't really like Mappa, and there's like the way that they animating all these shows for the last few years. I actually think that Dororo is like one of their best adaptations so far.
Hmm. Okay.
So I like it. I actually like I was a bit take um two minded. I was a bit I was not really like holding that um what- I was not enthusiastic about this show before, but like the last two episodes where it's focused on Mew and the children were I think that was a really good act.
Yeah, I see.
E- Emotional and good. I think it was a good act overall.
So I noticed that you excluded episode 4 when you said the last two episodes. That would be 5 and 6. Episode 4 was the one with
That's
the rich girl Osushi.
the
Uh,
curse sort.
yeah. Did you feel? I mean, I felt as though that was just like a little bit of filler, to be honest. Did you
It's
like
a
that episode?
it's a little bit of filler. I still feel like everything come all together in the end. Uh, in terms of enjoyment though, I think it was alright. I don't
Okay.
really love it. I don't really hate it. I yeah well
I felt like Dororo and Hyakimaru were not really involved that much in the episode. It was more
yeah
about Osushi and whatever her brother's name was, and the sword Nihiru.
that's right, and a bit of Dororo,
Yeah, like
the
Dororo
boy.
comes in at the end. Hyakimaru kind of comes in at the end. He's the one who kills them.
Yep.
And then
But
There's that whole thing with Dororo like holding the sword and its curse is kind of controlling his body. Like that was just goofy to me.
well, that's forced. But like, if like Dororo theme is always forced, always like it's always about like manipulation. So
Well, that's
I still
bad.
feel alright. I feel alright with that. Even that is like one of the main theme of the show. Um, for episode 5 6 though, I actually one fact that I really like this despite the fact that Mio is like the best girl. I really like her. I really like her characters. Is that he had catch he had Manu. Actually, he have like some sort of like emotional development in these episodes, in
Right.
these two episodes. So he actually act a bit more like human now, and he actually feel like human now.
Right, because he's hearing.
He get back his hearing, and he get back his voice as well.
That's right. How does he get back his voice again when he kills the bug thing?
Yeah, so remember like when he went to the is that the berg, yeah.
Like
So
the
when
sand
he
beetle,
that's right.
right?
So when he killed him, I think he got his voice back. So he got his voice back even like before he actually killed it.
Yeah. How did that work? I remember him like screaming when he loses his leg,
So,
when his leg gets bitten off.
because I think before that he's this lady monster,
Oh
and
yes,
I
there was like
think that
that demon chicken
yeah, that's right.
thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like apparently he got his voice back then, but then he loses his leg, and then like yeah, the whole thing happened as we
Hmm.
know it.
Right. 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 Well, okay.
And,
That's cool. Yeah, it's
and
true.
yeah,
It's true that he does go through a little bit of emotional development. Like he really likes Mio. He likes her song, and he learns to appreciate the use of his senses, which are mostly just causing him like pain. Which is
right.
why he
That's
loses
right.
his leg in the first place. He's not able to fight to his full potential because the all the sounds of like the natural world around him are kind of assaulting his senses, and he can't focus.
Right, that's right.
So yeah, it's
And
nice that he connects with Mio in a way that he hasn't with Dororo.
I actually gonna say that as well because I think that Dololo and he's having like more like stronger bond now as well. I feel like Dololo like care much more about him as like the brothers, you know.
I guess that's the case, but I don't really feel like Hyakimaru is very attached to him.
He doesn't mind Dololo,
He doesn't mind. But yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, he can see the color of everyone's souls, and
right?
Dororo, I suppose, has a very pristine soul. The narrator even explains in episode 2 or 3, oh, Hyakimaru, he allows Dororo to be close to him because he's just like whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the gist
Uh,
of that
he
explanation.
he's not even like a hazard, you know.
Right.
So I don't mind, having him tagging along, kind of stuff.
I mean, the show's named after Dororo, so
Yeah, that's kind of frustrating for me actually.
that kind of feels strange for you.
Yeah, that's the manga name is Dororo, not the other, not Hiaki Madu's name.
Or something about, just like the revenge of
Yeah,
the
that's
the
right.
weird baby corpse, or not anything like that necessarily, but just a title, like a very short title explaining the fact that it's a revenge tale and what the purpose is or against whom the revenge will be taken. Like a short 4 or 5 word title might be more appropriate. But
Right.
honestly, I feel like it's called Dororo because when this manga came out in I think the 60s or perhaps the late 50s, I know the anime
Yeah.
adaptation was late 60s.
Uh-huh.
They Tezuka probably just named it after the cute kid. Honestly, like Astro Boy is named after Astro Boy.
Yeah.
Dororo is named after like the cute child protagonist.
Uh,
And a lot
yeah.
of most manga series, I assume back then, were targeted at like young children. So even though
Mm,
this tale is like very violent and brutal, even in episode 6.
right.
Um, Speaking of brutality, I wonder whether Mio's prostitution was present in the original story.
I do say so. Yes. Like Tezuka had never shied away from depicting violence and
What about
um,
sexual violence, though? That's
sexual violence as well. That's what I think.
huh.
So I think this is presented in the original. I will need to check on that though.
Yeah, I mean, if it's named Dororo and it's like he wants kids to read it, that's the assumption that I'm working
Well,
based on anyway.
no, I don't think he intended for kid to read it though. I think it's just like his actual boy is more like PG rated. All others of his manga was more like adult oriented.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So apart from Mio, which I still think is the best girl ever in the 2 episodes, I keep saying that. I know I will keep saying that.
She's the one
Um,
girl.
she the one dead girl who died horribly, who
Yeah.
still keep her head high. But yeah, apart from all that, I still think that like the way she was killed by these I don't know
Samurai.
gang bandits samurais
I don't think they
was
were the
really
bandits. I think they were like the enemy, because there's that whole conflict going on in the background between the two armies.
right,
So
and
they're the other army.
yeah, I think that was really contrived, really contrived.
What was?
The way that they just follow her and said like, I see her sleeping around the enemy men, so they have to be the spies. So
I
we need to
actually,
kill all of them.
I don't really agree.
All right,
I don't feel as though there's any sort of issue with that story. The problem is that they try to tell this whole story in 2 episodes.
all right,
Because do you remember the scene? Not the first scene at the end of episode 5 where Dororo sees her, in the act, but there's a scene in
right,
episode 6 where she goes to the other camp, and there's like a
right,
shot of kind of the men's faces, like they have those lecherous grins that they're wearing,
right.
and then you hear her singing that song to herself
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Right.
I mean, I think that's one of the focal points of like the last half of episode 6 in particular is that um, women are. This is not an era in which women are treated very well. They're they're
Right.
thought of as objects, and it's all men who hold the power because this is the samurai dominated era. I don't know
Right.
which era we're in exactly, but it's horrible, but it's kind of natural for them to just immediately suspect her, and to think of her as being lesser.
All
Um,
right.
so when she dies, that's part of the tragedy is that she you know she died in their minds as just being an object. But it's
Whew.
it's Dororo and Hyakimaru who know that she was more than that. That's why it's so important that they have the grains of the rice, because her
Yep.
dream, as well as all the children, is to start a rice farm, a rice paddy.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
They even though the people who killed her didn't think of her as a human being, they do, and the proof of that they carry with them now. It's those
That's
rice
right.
grains. So I
Well,
I think the story was fine, but um, I don't know. I feel as though it moved too quickly. I would have liked
uh,
more time with her, I think.
I think the issue is that it's more calculated. It's more like trying to squeeze out the best reaction from us as much as they can.
What, just
Is
like
it
the fact that
is it
her
the case? The fact
uh
that the fact that like I do feel that everything that they put on screen was really like they planted they planted ahead. They will say like, nah, this is like the like her situation is very tragic, and this is the way that you're supposed to feel.
I
Do you
mean
feel that way
that's how
though?
literally all anime is made,
Well,
right? They're just a
right.
bunch of pictures, and they sequence them in the best way they can to evoke the response that they want. Um, I think I would have been a lot more affected by the story and more, more like remembered her a little more fondly and felt the unfairness, like the injustice and the brutality of that whole sequence. I would have felt that more strongly if,
Right.
say, for example, all the bizarre scenes where the villagers are like trying to gather rainwater
Right.
in
Right. Right. Yep.
uh,
Episode
the
five, I think.
clouds come over, and then they're trying to gather the rainwater, and then Hyakimaru defeats the sand beetle
Yep.
demon, and then the clouds go away, and they're like, "Oh man!" Like all
Yep.
that stuff, just cut that shit out. Those all
Right.
that time, however many seconds that was, 30 seconds, a minute. That's time
Yep.
that should be going to Mio. That's time that should be going to the kids, even that she takes care of. All the stuff with Hyakimaru's father and his brother.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's too much of that at this point in the story, especially since so many new characters, Mio being the most important one, but all the kids as well. So many new characters have entered in the past 2 episodes. That means that other characters need to lose out on a little bit of screen time to adjust. So all the stuff where he was like, "Let me go to war. I want to go to war," and just cut all that. Fit it in somewhere else. Don't do episode 4. Like, forget about episode 4 and dedicate half of episode 4, for example, to the brother and his issues with his mother, kind of hanging on to the memory of Hyakimaru.
Right.
There just needs to be some restructuring going on here. I don't feel like it's being adapted in the best possible way.
All right. Well, like technically, I still kind of really enjoy the way the show visually present.
That's
So
the other
I
thing that I have an issue with.
all right. Tell me more.
No, you
Go
you
on.
go ahead. How do you feel about the backgrounds? That's the question I want to ask you.
Oh, background. I think it's alright. It's serviceable. I actually don't notice anything. Like really stand apart in the bad way.
Okay.
I like the way they use the color. I like the art style.
I feel like
They
I feel like there's a lack of color. Do you
so
feel
so
that like the
it
show is very brown?
so it's more like dual for you.
Yeah. And the worst thing is that the backgrounds in this show are done by Studio Pablo, who have done backgrounds for
All right.
series like Penguin Drum and Flip Flappers.
All right. I nearly mentioned Philip Tapper. Thank you.
Yeah. So now we get this. Like, I understand that the series was set long ago and perhaps they're trying to capture that feeling.
Right.
But like the black and white episode, for example, the flashback, I know we talked a lot about that, and I
Yep.
mentioned how I felt it was like appropriate emotionally, given
Right.
what the doctor had gone through in the past.
Mhm.
But then when we're in the present and everything is like looking so smudged and gray and brown, um, I
It
don't I don't know, I don't like
well
it.
it does supposed to be gritty, right? So I think like these like muddy browny things supposed to be like add up to the gritty CD theme of the show.
Hmm. I really don't feel as though muddiness
Yeah.
is equal to grittiness. In fact, I think the hallmark of grittiness is in the little imperfections that you can see. Uh, like for example, if you have like a black background, there would be just specks of lighter blacks and grays all throughout it. That would be gritty, because like the little grains that you can kind of pick out, the imperfections, is what gives it that quality. In Dororo, I feel like there's too much. Just I don't know. It feels as though everything has been run over with a smearing tool in like Adobe After Effects or something.
All right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
I use that a lot though. Adobe After Effects.
do you?
Yeah. I used to do that a lot. Playing
Yeah,
around.
I just use MS Paint,
Well,
which you can,
that's
which
quicker.
anyone listening to this podcast can probably tell if they look at the screen.
All right. All right. Do you have anything else to say about the show?
I mean, you said that you like the visuals. Obviously, I don't like the backgrounds very much, but I mean,
Yeah.
earlier when I was going off about Twin Engine and all their associated studios, you were like, you think
Right.
this one stands out more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That.
what's the way visually in which it stands out the most, do you think?
All right. I think the way that they use the color though, so I actually found that to be in their advantage. So like usually it would go like when we said it would go like insignificantly, but sometimes when it wanted to do it can be more of like impressionist. I can tell like a scene on top of my head though, but I know like there are some moment where uh Yaki Yakimaru seeing from his point of view or like become like when he transforms or something it goes more of like more like stylized. So I think stylist is like is more of what I think of when I think of the Lulu.
Okay. All right.
And
Well,
I still
I think
sorry.
that a lot of people
Yeah.
probably share your opinion,
Right.
because if this show is catching on with a wider audience, obviously it's it has little chance of doing that if people don't appreciate it on a visual level. So uh, that's
And
good. You know, I'm
right,
just
and I
personally,
think
I don't like it very much, but I think it's probably succeeding the way it intends to.
I still think like the last two episodes was thorough at the best. So I like episode 5 and 6, and I think I like episode 3 when it
Yeah,
was
3 was
about
the
the
flashback one, right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for me, that one, like, my continued hope for Dororo is based on what I saw in that episode. But the problem is that it's
Mm,
so different, I assume, from everything else we'll be getting.
right.
Um,
So
so
yeah,
that's bad.
for me, as long as it's keep this quality, is gonna be a good show.
Okay, cool.
Well, we still have like how many 15 more episodes, so there are gonna be a lot of of things to talk about. Then
Is it only 21?
I think it's gonna be like 22 or 24 episodes in
Okay.
total.
Yeah, we got 16 or 18 more then.
Yep, that's right.
Cool.
All right. So let's get to the last show of this season, which is Mob Psycho 100.
Last but not least.
Yeah, well, we got like an episode of basically Sakuga on this action sequence set piece.
Right.
Uh,
And the crazy thing
I
is that you could be referring to multiple
yep.
episodes just in this little 3 episode batch when
All
you say
right.
that. I mean, obviously, episode 5 is the one with the
I
huge,
was
like, this
referring. Yep.
back to back spectacle. But
Yep. All
every
right.
episode is like a little bit of a feast.
All right. I have a hunch though that you might not advise at as well as episode 5.
I might
As
not have what episode 5?
you might not love the episode 5 as much as other people do.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably right about that. I mean, I thought it was good,
Right. Yep.
but I I also have some issues with the presentation of that episode.
You said you had some issue with the presentation of that.
Yes.
All right. Could you elaborate more on that, please?
Sure. So just briefly, what happens in episode 4 is all the psychics are called in to
Right. Right.
try to exorcise the demon from Asagiri, like
Mhm.
the billionaire's daughter. So episode 5 is the process that Mob works through in order to escape the prison that Mogami puts him in, like the mental
Yep.
prison, and then he works inside Asagiri's mind to defeat him, and essentially that's the exorcism that's taking place.
Mhm.
So my problem is that his motivation throughout the second half of the episode, the combat scene with all the like volcanoes erupting, like there's lava all over the floor, and all these spirits are flying around, and it's like the apocalypse is happening. His motivation is to rescue Asagiri, but that is not
Yep.
clearly conveyed visually, apart from one short moment when all the demons that Mogami has absorbed are kind of like screaming and battling for supremacy, I guess. And there's one moment where like Mob hears her voice and she sticks out her hand. Apart from that, the fact that he is undergoing like a very kind of a personal mission to save her is lost amidst all the chaos. So it moves from becoming one thing, Mob's his mission to save her, and it becomes something else entirely. It's just like, look at what we can draw.
All right. So are you referring to episode 4
Well,
only, or
episode
like 4 and 5?
5 mostly. 4 is the setup
All right.
for 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Episode
All
5
right.
is the one where in the second half it's Mob fighting against Mogami, and after doing battle with Mogami, he has to deal with all the evil spirits that Mogami has absorbed.
Right.
And it loses focus on Asagiri, which is the person in whose head he's fighting, and the person for whom he is fighting, like who he's trying to save. That's just
Alright.
forgotten to me visually.
One of the thing is they also try to make her as the bullier,
Right. That's in
to
like the
to
first half
Mob.
of episode 5 when he's being tested
That's
by
right.
Mogami.
That's right. And yeah, and that's basically about it.
What do you mean that's about
Yeah,
it?
I mean like about him and her. Uh, like later on he have to deal with all the other evil spirits, right?
Yeah, that's as
Yeah,
a result of him kind of defeating Mogami like temporarily. Then he has to deal with all the spirits that he's consumed.
all right.
But
Mm.
episode 4, all the psychics are called in to try to cure her.
Yep,
Episode
yep, yep.
5, he's trapped inside of her mind. Mogami's pulling the strings, but he's like literally inside her body and mind, or her soul, however you want to put it. And there's a
Right,
moment during that fight when he hears her voice and like reaches out to take her hand.
right, right,
Um,
right.
but then it just moves away from that entirely. And I feel like there was something lost there, because
Right.
then it just becomes, like the apocalypse is happening. How is Mob gonna save her? Oh, the percent keeps going up. Like it just becomes kind of ordinary despite looking so extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. Do you feel like this episode 5 could span out in more episodes?
I don't know. Um, I don't. I really don't know. Like I'm tempted to say yes, but I don't know if it would be necessary. I just feel like if the fight were a little smaller in scale, and if
Right.
it were made more clear, just like if she were on screen a little more. Perhaps if the fight was structured in such a way where Mob is trying to move forward towards her and she's trapped or imprisoned somewhere,
Yep.
um, rather than it just being like we see her briefly, but then apart from that, we zoom out like really wide and we see Mob as like this white presence in the middle of a giant like ball of flame, and there is like the entire ground is coated in lava as though the earth is opening up, and the sky is black and it's like swarming with like demons all over the place. It's just too much, like too
Right.
much for me.
Yep.
So I don't
All
I don't
right.
think it needed to be 2 episodes or anything. I just would have preferred that it was directed in a different way.
Yep. It's like a bit too. I can see your point. It's a bit too explosive, too
Yeah, literally.
bombastic. Yeah.
But
Well,
this episode I'm sure was beloved the world over. So I'm just
well.
complaining
I'm
about nothing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't have much of the complaint about that episode, but I'm not really hype about that either. I would put like I would rate that like 6 or 7 out of 10 for me.
Dude, that's like
It
a
was
failing
alright.
grade for you.
Well. Usually like 8 or 9 would be great, or like 10 out of 10. It's 6, 7 is alright. It's barely passable for me.
Barely passable. That's not very
Well,
good.
it's still the job. So it have like really spectacular, uh, visual. Um, it was good. The
Yeah.
story was alright. Like I can still make out of what they wanted to say, and I think it does a alright job. It doesn't really grab me like personally, emotionally.
Yeah. That's something that I've had an issue with for most of this season. Actually, is that I'm not very emotionally involved.
Right.
In episode 1, I was tearing up um,
Yep. Yep.
during
Yep.
during the moment when Mob stands up for Eri and puts her novel back together. I was like,
Mhm.
yes, this is peak Mob Psycho. This season is going to be a
Awesome.
masterpiece. And then
Whoa.
we just went on a lot of detours where he was working his part-time job with Reagan.
All right. So how do you feel about the last this episodes where it's focused more about Regan and him again?
You talk for a little bit. I just got through doing a whole bunch of complaining. So how did you
All
feel
right.
about episode 6? Because it was very
I
different from 4 and 5.
it was different for sure. I think it's come as like a given that they would explore more of Moff and Regan's like chemistry. I I do think I do like the way that Mob start to stand up for himself, and
Mhm.
Regan start to like reassess the whole thing, like the whole their relationship, and even like to his worthiness. Like because he at one point that he we were thinking like like if Moth gone, his business gonna be down,
Yeah.
and he was thinking to himself like, oh, like that not necessarily the case. I can do that by myself. And then he was into like some sort of depression himself. Like he was actually have no friend. He was alone.
Yeah.
That was all good actually. Um, I don't know. I when I talk about that, I know why why the show would go that way. I don't necessarily like it though. I don't know, man.
You don't.
Conflicted.
You don't know. Okay, conflicted. I think I felt kind of the same way about episode
Right.
6. I mean, on the one hand, I really liked it because we got to see Mob, back in school for a little bit, hanging out with his buds, going to karaoke, and having no rhythm whatsoever.
Yep.
But all the stuff with Reagan was a little strange for me.
Yeah.
And I think
How strange.
part of that was the fact that throughout this season we've been getting like little snippets of Reagan's internal thoughts. Like he's been
Right.
noticing what Mob is going through a little bit more. For example, in the episode where they go to exorcise the family of ghosts, it's that creepy
Right.
shack in the woods.
Yep.
He notices that Mob is going through like a serious crisis,
Mm-hmm.
making the decision whether or not he's going to blow those 3 spirits away. And he kind of makes like even a note to himself, like I should ask Mob what's going on like a little later and pick his brain, see how he's feeling. So then, but in episode 6, which we just watched, he's kind of back to his. I mean, he's always been manipulative and a con man, but he's back to the old Reagan, and there's really no sign of that. What's the word I'm looking for? There's no sign of the attention that he was paying to Mob before mentally. He's back to thinking of Mob as just a tool, and you don't have anything to do. Come work for me. It's not as though your friends are inviting you to hang out or anything, or that you've got anything going on after school. When in fact he does.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Reagan's just back to his old self. I found that a little bit jarring.
Yeah, well, but he did say afterwards that he slipped out at that time. He just he slipped up.
Right.
So it's kind of explain his situation a bit.
Well, go ahead.
Yep. No. I was about to say something else. So you
Go ahead.
So like yeah. So I still like I still think that like Regan's all of the issue with Mob was done was addressed appropriately. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the time skip though. So like there like a whole lot of time skip during the Reagan, like Reagan himself becoming famous and stuff. I think it's like 2 or 3 months have passed already, and I for me I feel that a bit jarring for me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I agree. On the one hand, it's necessary that a bunch of time passes because one of the jobs that he took on, particularly one of the quote unquote exorcisms, was
I like it though.
the multiple accounts in the video game.
Right. Yes.
And that took him weeks and weeks, and that's part of what allowed him to accrue this fame that has led to him being on television.
Right.
It did feel, as I was watching episode 6, as though the point at which they wanted to end the episode was him being on TV because something significant is going to happen
Right.
in the next episode that's going to be big enough for them to fill like a whole 22 minutes. And they needed to catch up to that point. So they kind of reverse engineered the episode to end there. And then everything else felt a little too compact. But I feel that way all the time when I watch anime. And that's probably because, as we discussed earlier, there are deadlines that have to be met. There are certain parts of source material that need to be gotten to, and maybe other bits are skipped or not given enough time to breathe necessarily. I haven't read the manga for the series either because usually I'm an anime only pleb. But
Right.
yeah, I felt as though there was a little bit of truncation, if that's
Yep.
a word, happening here.
Yeah. So basically, I see all the reason why like we have these episodes. I still think that it does its job fine. I just have I just don't have so much of emotional impact out of that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I still think like Mob Psycho 100 second season was pretty good. Like I still don't see any bad episode yet.
Okay.
Just yeah, just I don't feel that much of like emotional connected to it.
Right.
And well. So I to say all that, I still think like Mob Psycho 100 is still like the best show of the season so far.
Yeah. It's
Objectively.
yeah. That's sure. Sure. Um, yeah. I'm not too connected with what's going on either. Which is a shame. I mean, the first half of episode 6, all the stuff with Mob, hanging out with his buds, I really appreciated that. He broke his record for push-ups, and
Yep.
they went out to a family restaurant with both the Body Improvement Club and what's the name of the other club?
the
It's like the
the
telepathy club,
yeah,
right?
that's right. Yep.
They're all they've kind of formed like a little bond with each other since they share a club room. That's kind of cool to see.
Yep.
And there's a very positive vibe to that
And
scene, which
and
which is nice,
and they celebrate the birthdays of two members of both group, I think.
right? Yeah,
So yeah, that was nice to see.
we got a little tiny scene where he comes home early because he decides to skip his part-time job, and
Yep.
Ritsu, his brother, comes home and he's like, "Hey man, let's hang out, let's play some video games. We never get to do that anymore because you're always staying out so late."
Yep.
So that's nice too. I do like Mob. I really like Mob as a character. There's like a lot of potential for growth, a lot of potential for inner conflict that
Yep.
is regularly delivered on.
Yep.
But a lot of that has to do with his job with Reagan, and I assume that at some point in the season it's just going to become nonstop battles, like one after another, which is what happened at the tail end of season 1.
Right.
So it was nice to get these little moments of downtime and check in with him and his ordinary life.
Yep. Well, I think it is more to the fact that everyone have been hyping up on Mob Psycho 100. It was like, oh my god, it was so great. It was so amazing, and I feel like it's alright. It's good, not like the best thing I saw this year. Oh,
Not the
like,
best thing.
like
Wait, but the year's just
well,
started.
so sorry, not the bad thing I saw in recent years.
Oh, yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, so I still think
I
that it's
mean,
good.
After the Rain was last year, so
Right. I think more of flip flappers for some reason.
right, yeah.
So yep. Anything else you want to say about Mob Psycho 100?
Honestly, there's lots more I could say. I've got lots more notes, but we do have to go through 5 chapters of Flowers of Evil.
All right. If you have like one more thing that you need to say about Mob Psycho 100, just go ahead.
No, there's nothing that I need to say. I mean, it's an anime series. There's nothing I need to say about it. It's a cartoon.
All right. Save it for next week then.
Well,
You
next week
might
are we
you
doing a
might review
podcast
some of
episode
that.
next week?
Oh yeah. Of course, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll just be doing one episode, so that'll be I can break it down. We can break
You
it
can
down a little more.
print that back.
Yeah. No, I doubt it.
All
Ready
right.
ready to move past. I assume that I assume that within a short amount of time, the show will kind of change, like morph into what it did in season
Excellent.
1, where they fight against Claw or they fight against some other evil organization or some other evil spirit, and it'll take like a bit of a longer,
Yep.
um, you know, it'll become like 5 or 6 episodes that are dedicated to just one larger conflict.
Right. All right. So let's get to Flower of Evils Volume 9.
Okay, let's do it.
So we have the two more volume, right?
After this, yes.
Yep. All right.
Coming up on the end.
All right. Flower Evil Volume 9. I think the plot is really slow this time. Slow. Uh, for me, it's not all right. For the main real plot is that the two of them, Kaguya, I
Kasuga.
think, yeah, and and the girl getting
Tokiwa.
together. Tokiwa, yes, sir. Thanks. They are the perfect couple now, and that's it. I think it's basically it
No,
for
that's not
the
it.
whole volume. All right,
No. I
you
mean,
tell me more.
yeah, this was your suggestion to do this manga, so it must be like one that you really like, is that right?
Yeah. I still really love it.
Yeah. Um, but I'm gonna have to defend it. That's
Go
not
for
all
it.
that happened here. You're totally writing off chapter 44, which is the
Uh,
one where he goes through that entire um, inner like
Flower Evils.
visualization of the mansion from her story, the haunted mansion, with
Right.
himself and Tokiwa as ghosts inside, and
Yep.
and he like crushes the flower of evil in order to move forward and get past the like the feeling that the memory of Nakamura is kind of like chaining him and holding him back.
Right. All right.
Um, you're writing
Before
all
you get to
that off a little bit.
before you get into your point though, so remember that. I gonna say that it is the lamest confession ever. It's
Lamest
so
confession
lame.
ever. Hmm.
It's so lame. Like the way that he just come into the restaurant and say like, "Oh my god," crying, saying like, "I love you," and would you go out with me in front of his in front of her boyfriend? It's
Yeah,
so lame.
that's so
For me, it's
lame.
lame.
Hmm. Well, I
All
mean,
right.
Kasuga is lame. He's quote unquote lame. He's not particularly good looking. He's kind of gloomy. In fact, that's like a big part of chapter 43 when he's sitting on the bench, kind of outside school, and he overhears those girls
Yeah.
talking about Tokiwa's breakup and how she defended Kasuga. He's like boring and gloomy. That's what they call him.
Yep.
So he's not exactly like a stud or a Chad or anything. He's like a little nerd.
Yeah.
Um, and the revelation that he comes to after chapter 44 or within chapter 44 when he does crush the flower,
Yep.
um, it was probably such a big moment for him that he felt as though he needed to act right away. He couldn't
Right.
wait, not after having gone through that process mentally. There was probably like adrenaline pumping through his body. So he had it. I mean, what he wants, what he's made up his mind to pursue, is Tokiwa. By crushing the flower of evil, he kind of gives himself permission to be happy and to move away from just feelings of like darkness and feeling despondent and not allowing himself to move out of the shadow of his past experiences. So by crushing the flower of evil and moving past all of that, he gives himself permission to go after Tokiwa. So what does he do? He goes straight to her. I think it
Yep.
makes sense. However, I understand
Mhm.
what you're saying because this is not exactly a romance for the ages. Tokiwa is pretty much in the story a Nakamura substitute,
Yep.
and beyond just that, she's like perfectly set up to be his eventual girlfriend.
Mm.
So the moment when he confesses to her, though I think it makes sense in the context of the story and of Kasuga's emotional progression, I don't feel as though it's very satisfying.
Right.
So
All
that's
right.
that can be an issue.
All right. I must say though that we both have a criticism about the way the manga used the flower of evil image,
Yeah.
like symbolism for the last few volume before. I do feel though that this volume when he finally like basically get rid of the flower of evil, I think that the symbolism is really nicely done, despite the fact that I don't claim that I understand most of like the only symbolic visual that the manga try to convey it.
Well, I mean, most of the symbolism is tied up in the flower of evil itself, right? How much
Right.
other symbology
I
is there?
yeah. I mean to the fact that like sometimes the manga would use the image like into the context that we're not sure what they really mean.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
remember the one before when the last few volume when he start reading the book and we
Yeah.
see like the big eyes, well,
Yeah.
eyes ball opening.
Yeah. I remember I
So
had a lot
like
to say about that.
yeah, so this one though, while I'm still not sure about like the context of like the um uh of the mansion, like the story that Tokiwa was supposed to write, and we see like the two Tokiwa and I think Nakamura
No, it's
face.
him. It's him and her.
Oh, it's him and her.
Yeah, it's
I I
Kasuga
I,
and Tokiwa because
I
they're
didn't get
both
that
supposed to
though.
be the ghosts. They're like both dead.
Right.
Um, he because he's not letting him move beyond. He's not letting himself move beyond what happened in Gunma, his old town, and she
Right.
because she likes books and her friends don't like books, so she's a ghost.
Huh. Huh. Is that
Remember,
often the
she talked
case?
about how she felt like,
Oh my
I
god.
never bring it up with my friends because I don't really feel like it's appropriate. I've never told anyone about this
Yeah.
before. You're the first one I've told. Blah blah blah. So she's like a ghost trapped in this mansion because her love for books is just so deep,
All right.
and she can't
Oh,
express it to anybody.
oh my god. So I feel like a ghost now because I don't like express my love for anime to like all the person that I know.
Well, you're putting it out there on the internet for few
Yeah.
people
Well.
to hear each week if they like.
Well. So I feel like all the closet people like with their hidden passion will be like feel like a ghost sometimes.
Right.
All right.
I think that's the point.
That's a bit too much.
Yeah, it is a bit
But
too
well,
much.
yeah.
All the stuff with her, that's the issue with her being like the perfect girl who's into books and stuff. It's treated as so terrific and amazing for her and for Kasuga, that she likes books and that's what's drawn them together. But whatever. I mean, I
Right.
think chapter 44, like I kind of admire what it was going for.
Right.
Um,
Well, I like it though. I like the image of like him squeezing the flower, but I really like it.
yeah. So I do like that chapter. Even though
Mm.
it does end with him, barging into the restaurant and being like, "Please go out with me."
Tokiwa doesn't want to be confessed.
Right, Tokiwa-sama.
Yes, yes, he did, and yes, he accepted.
Yes, she
Well,
did. Okay, so
yeah,
the issue, even though I do kind of like chapter 44, especially the like, how he stops under a streetlight, and he's
right.
kind of confronted by his own shadow or the shadow that's being cast on the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
an image that the
Right.
manga has used before. Um,
Huh. Huh.
in the old scenes, like in his old city when he was in middle school,
Right.
in Gunma,
Right.
he would often stop under streetlights. Maybe 2 or 3 times this happened, and
Right.
he would like kind of run through his own internal monologue about how everyone was like a pile of shit and there was nothing
Mm.
in this town and he just had to escape.
Right.
So
Right.
we've seen that I guess that's a motif
Yep. Yep. Yep.
that this series has used before. So like chapter 44, I
Neat.
think it brought a lot of things back into the picture for Kasuga's like
Well.
big moment of realization.
Right.
Um,
Neat.
yeah, but the problem that I had with chapter 44, the one issue that I have is the manga is called Flowers of Evil.
Yep.
He crushes the flower. So
Yep.
has he just moved? Has he just totally moved beyond all this? Like I was kind of like worried, is is this it?
Oh.
Like, does everyone get a happy ending and stuff? But then in chapter 47, it's revealed that his grandfather has collapsed, and he's resolved to go back to his old town. So there's still potential for everything to go to hell, which is good.
All right.
I mean, it's called Flowers of Evil. It's supposed to be about like internal strife, and just it's not supposed to be all sweetness and light.
Yeah. All right.
So
Uh, all right. One thing that I really like um, about the second, like this later pack, is that it run out in total completely opposite to like the what happening in when he was in the middle school in Gamma. So
right.
like the tone was completely different, and even like the pacing. So like in the first half, it was more like like it's getting more and more arresting. But the second half was like it was really like when I complained that it was long. It's like because the pacing was really relaxing,
Yeah. I mean, I
slow.
think that's somewhat appropriate given what happens in these chapters. Like he starts to go out with Tokiwa, so he's
Yep.
he's just enjoying his life.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So we get to another lame moment where he's just crying by himself. Am I allowed to be happy alone? Is that what he said?
Yeah, is it all right for me to be this happy?
Yeah.
Uh, and then she's like, "What do you mean? I'm happy too."
Crying also. No, she's not crying, but yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, yeah, I mean, what do you want from him? Honestly, he's not Casanova.
uh,
He's a mentally disturbed teenager, or
he
formerly mentally disturbed. I don't know.
she doesn't know that though.
Yeah. Well, she's probably gonna find out, and everything's gonna spiral out of control.
Yay.
Maybe. The thing with him being like, "Is it really okay for me to be this happy?" Yeah, it's not the coolest thing for him to have said, but I wouldn't expect him to say the coolest thing in any given moment. He's not a cool guy. The
All
one
right.
thing that I really bristled at was the scene where they've gone for a walk, and
Right.
she's like looking out over a bridge or something, kind of at a view of the earth. I guess like
Right. Yeah.
it's kind of in winter time. It's going to be spring soon, I think, and I guess she's looking out at like the snow-covered ground or just the sky at a nice time of day, something like that. Anyways, she's looking out at nature and she says, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" And then he's looking at her and he says, "It sure is." That's the lamest like rom-coms thing. Oh
Well,
my god. I
well.
just
They enjoy the moment together. So yes.
it made me think that if there were ever a live action adaptation of this, that she would be like Sandra Bullock and he would be Channing Tatum or something. Like it's just the dialogue does not belong. That little exchange does not belong anywhere near this series for me. I was like, please just make this scene end.
All right. How do you feel about Flower of Evil so far? Now that we get into like the 10 volume already.
Um, I don't know. Like, I'm really not that into it at this
Right.
point. It's okay.
Yep. All
I
right.
I am still interested to see whether it concludes with like some catastrophic ending. Someone dies. Like if there's going to be a murder, if there's going to be a suicide, if Kasuga's going to go like back to his old ways, if he's going to leave society behind entirely and
Mm-hmm.
just run away like to the other side, perhaps the other side of the mountain, just leave his new town behind. I kind of
Right.
feel as though that's not going to happen because we got this whole thing with Tokiwa. But it could be like the possibility remains that all this stuff with Tokiwa is just setting him up for temporary happiness so that it can be shattered and he
By
can,
Nakamura.
yeah, by Nakamura or just by himself, by
Yep.
the circumstances of his life, whatever. Because he's going back to his hometown.
Yep.
And assuming that Nakamura is still there could be some crazy stuff going down.
All right.
Um, but I mean, I have plenty of problems with what's going on in terms of like the selections, the choices that the author is making, where the story is being taken, where the characters are driving it. For
Yep.
example, like at the end of, let's see, at the end of chapter 46, he comes home from their little date,
Right.
and he returns home from hanging out with his like super hot girlfriend, and his parents are fighting, right? Or they've had a
Yeah.
fight,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
in like different rooms, kind of looking away. And he just says, "Tadaima," he says, "I'm home," and they're
Yep.
both like stunned by this. And then the little text on the side of the page is, "With this, the family is back together." The family is
All
brought
right.
together again. That was like probably one of the worst parts of the manga so far.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I find that very weakly convey as well. Like the way that their parent his parent has the issues, had the problems, and now it's like ultimately resolved by like his willingness to just say I'm back.
yeah, that's.
My God.
I mean, saying I know when you in Japan when you come home you say "Tadaima," like
Yeah.
I've returned. It's supposed to be.
He feel like he at home. Again. He
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
this is a family again. Yeah, I think I know the intent behind all that, but like the way he showed that, it's just a bit. It's just very clumsy for
It's
me.
just like him turning on a light switch. Like he turns on the Tadaima light switch, and all of a sudden his parents are like, "Oh man, this really is a family. We're good, man." And then in the next
Uh,
chapter, there's a scene of them like happily talking and eating together.
yeah, like they about to going out. They ask him to go with him
No,
or
he
something.
volunteers.
Oh right, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh no,
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When I said he volunteers, I was thinking of him volunteering to go back to Gunma. They're talking about
Oh
you're right. They're talking about going out to eat somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
so
but I mean,
yep,
all sprinkled throughout a lot of the chapters so far in this second half. I mean, even in the first half, clearly they were dealing with the fact that they have like a psychotic son,
yep,
um, who is apparently not psychotic at all. Like because cute girls will save you. I don't know. Like what's the moral? But in the second half, he what is it that I'm trying to say? We got like scenes of the father kind of like slowly slipping into his old ways, perhaps. Like he's not
right.
showering or shaving. He's falling asleep in the living room. Just he's probably drinking a little bit.
Yep.
And then he like this is all just fixed because Kasuga's like, hey guys, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm home.
No, no, no. And it the reason that that's I'm a bit mad about that is it because like it implied that like their parent problem was because of Kazuya.
Well, I think a lot of their problems were rooted in like what he did to their
Yeah,
family. But yeah, I'm sure as you're alluding to that the wife and the husband have some problems amidst themselves as well.
right. And yeah, and so like I know the moral of this story. The moral of this story is just like whenever you have a fight with your parents, just come home, and say tadaima. Everything will be resolved afterward.
Uh yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's good, man.
That's deep.
It definitely is deep. Um yeah, it's fine. Like it's the story's fine, whatever. I don't know, dude. I really do feel as though like it might just be that like love will save you might be the what we get like at the end.
All
And
right.
that's a little scary to me because I've seen way too many stories that end that way, almost none of which are very powerful or even very satisfying.
Yep.
So,
All right. So we have two more volume, which would mean that we might finish that in 2 weeks. I think we will finish that in 2 weeks. So like I starting from next week, we're gonna pick the other option for the for our classics
Gunbuster.
anime. Yeah, Gunbuster. Let's go with that.
We have a few other options as well. We've been thinking about a World Masterpiece Theater series. We talked a little bit about doing Oyasumi Pun Pun,
Yep.
but that's another manga. So we've just wrapped up almost a manga series. We could go back to anime for a bit.
Yep. All right. I'm actually really looking forward to Gunbuster.
Yeah, 6 episodes, and if we like it, we might watch Die Buster, which is the sequel.
No, we will do that as well. Actually,
Oh yeah,
do
I
we?
mean they're separated by 15 years, I think.
Yeah, but they do have like the same kind of characters, right?
No, I think
Is that just like
it's a new cast
team?
of characters.
Right. So it's just like thematically related.
Yeah, and probably the setting as well.
Yep. Well, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean if I hate it, I'm not gonna want to watch
Right.
Die
Well,
Buster, but hopefully, I really like Hideaki Anno, so
yep. Or we can just go back to like Fuliculi and the two sequels. All right.
sounds good to me.
All right, guys. Despite what Whooper say about like he not feeling like personally connected to any of the show this season, I found that a lot of other show to be really enjoyable as well. For example, the quintuplets was still entertaining. Even like Shield Hero have its own appeal. What else? The writer and his cat, still good. My pet, Kemuri Kusa, is still very intriguing.
Your
And
pet.
what else? Yeah, well, I nobody actually really talk about that show.
I
Except
see threads
maybe
for it
me.
on A. Whenever there's like
Is
a
it?
new episode, yeah, it gets plenty of discussion because Kimono Friends was such a huge hit there.
Hmm.
So it has its
Uh,
own, fan base.
and what else? Yeah. So yeah, that pretty much is. Oh, Endro. Watch Endro. It's pretty. It's a
Yeah, I did
really
like the
fun
first
show.
episode of Endro. So hey,
If you like the first though, I think you're gonna enjoy the rest of the episodes.
maybe like honestly, that I think based on its first episode and the the kind of enjoyable air that it had to it, that might be something that I revisit in the future. Like a lot of this
Right.
year for me is going to be reserved for rewatching old stuff, but
Hmm.
um, that might be something I come back to when I'm looking at things that I missed from 2019.
All right. So yeah. So then this season have a lot to offer. So yeah, just pick those shows, man.
All right, just do whatever Mario says.
Uh,
Have a good one, everybody.